Next we have, what is the answer to all of these? What was the reason? The big answer, everybody, is immobility. So immobility now, guess what? If someone is immobile, what does that lead to? That leads to an increased risk for falls. Wow. So I'm immobile because of the alarm, and now that I'm immobile, I am at increased risk for falls. Isn't that interesting? So decreased range of motion, lung capacity, balance, strength, contractures, shortened tendons, all these things that happen because of immobility make me at increased risk for falls. And do you see what I would say is definitely a vicious cycle? These are the maladies we're actually trying to prevent. We're charged with preventing, and the alarm is actually causing. So become an advocate for getting rid of alarms, everyone. Talk about these vicious cycles, and there's more. If someone's constipated, now that leads to medication, and those meds lead to other side effects. If someone's constipated and it leads to fecal impaction, God forbid, that is a sentinel event, could even lead to death. We all know this. The pressure ulcers now lead to pain. Does anyone see lots of vicious cycles? Something else, increased anxiety over the sound of the alarm or the people running toward me, or they might if I move. That can lead to shortness of breath. Here's something else wise people have pointed out. If alarms decrease your mobility, how can your true walking ability and movement ability be assessed? It would be a skewed assessment. And alarms now, because of all the immobility, cause debilitation. Debilitation can cause the depression. The depression can cause more debilitation. And then what happens in so many cases for all of these maladies? We turn to medications. And now we could have complications, we could have side effects. And there's still another big problem, everyone. How many of you have heard of alarm fatigue? So let me tell you a little bit about what I've learned. There is an association for the advancement of medical instrumentation, AAMI. They define alarm fatigue as a serious life-threatening problem. They say it can be experienced by patients. They do a lot of their studies in hospitals. Patients, we could say residents, physicians, caregivers, families, really everyone within hearing distance of any alarms. Alarm fatigue is caused by multiple, frequent, uncorrelated, highly arousing noises from alarms and other sources. Now, they point out these noises mix and reverberate in rooms with a preponderance of hard, non-sound absorbing tile floors, highly reflective surfaces, and high levels of activity. When is that activity? Every day, every hour. They call it 24/7 activity. And reverberate means to be repeated several times, such as an echo. Now, apparently there was a summit, a national summit on alarms back in 2011. It was held in Washington, D.C. It was co-hosted by the Joint Commission, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, the ECRI, which is the Emergency Care Research Institute, the American College of Clinical Engineering, and this Association for the Advancement of Medical Instrumentation. At this summit, the Joint Commission, the FDA, and the ECRI Institute disclosed the following. Over 500 patient deaths in hospitals result from alarm fatigue. They also designated this problem of alarm fatigue as a top priority. And where they got this was from an independent analysis of FDA incident reports. All right, something else to consider. The World Health Organization has actually identified noise as an underestimated threat. Wow, noise is an underestimated threat for what? They say for the following things. 1, sleep disturbance. We don't need a study to tell us that, do we? We know that. Did you know that people living in nursing homes are some of the most sleep-deprived people in the world? We're going to get to that more later too. Just start to realize that. You know that. maybe advocate for people. All this noise is contributing to bad sleep. People need sleep to be healthy. The noise also is an underestimated threat for cardiovascular effects. That'll come up again here in a minute. Noise is an underestimated threat for poorer work and school performance. Wow, makes sense. How is it affecting your work? Something to think about, ponder, maybe look at in your daily work. And an underestimated threat, which wouldn't surprise us, for hearing impairment. Isn't it interesting? Even on our phones now, it'll say, are you sure you want to put up the volume? It could affect your hearing. That is a kind notice, but there it is. Apparently, chronically ill and older people are more sensitive to these disturbances. That also makes sense. And there is moderate evidence, they say, of effects on blood pressure, increasing blood pressure, and increasing the fight or flight hormone secretion from noise. Then the World Health Organization put guidelines together, and they say the guidelines for community noise recommend less than 30 decibels in bedrooms during the night in order to get good sleep. 30 decibels. I've also heard it said, everyone, that 30 decibels is a comfortable sound level. It's kind of what we all seek or would prefer. And sadly, I've also seen studies of noise. One nursing home did sound meters, and the average decibels at night, are you ready, was almost 50. So we have work to do on noise, everybody. I appreciate being taught this. Another noise research study in a hospital in 2012 found that the study highlighted the importance of sleep for restoration and healing that is particularly important for hospitalized patients. Again, we kind of know this innately, but it's good to have studies to back us. Apparently they used 12 healthy volunteers in a 3-day study in a sleep laboratory. In the first night, they did nothing to disrupt their sleep. They created a baseline. But during the next 2 nights, each participant was presented with 14 recorded sounds that are commonly heard in a hospital setting. Among those 14 sounds were things like intravenous alarm beeping, a telephone ringing, an ice machine, those are very noisy, voices in the hall, outside traffic, as well as a helicopter. Apparently the sounds were presented at increasing decibel levels during specific sleep stages. The louder the sound, the more likely it would be to disrupt sleep. That was the hypothesis. The louder the sound, the more likely it would be to disrupt sleep. However, there were unexpectedly large differences in sleep disruption based on the sound type, not the level of loudness. This was independent of how loud the sound was. Researchers found that of all the sound types, electronic sounds were the most arousing, even at a volume just above a whisper. Wow, there's something about electronic sounds that are more disruptive to people. Now, alarm fatigue, guess what? We all have it. It's becoming more and more in our lives. Someone pointed out recently, think of the credit card machine that we all stand in front of now, and particularly the chip kind. What happens when it's all done? It beeps at you to take it out. Something else to consider. When there's a loud sound in our real life, things like a smoke alarm, a fire alarm, our bodies go into a fight or flight mode because it's startling and we don't know if we should do something or get out. Basically, the idea of an alarm is counterintuitive of what an alarm usually means in our real life. So if you think of a Fitbit, someone brought up a Fitbit, the alarm or a phone app tells you to do something positive. Isn't that interesting? Sometimes it says you need to move now, or you need to drink water now. So I've just had people point out, what if we used alarms for good, like they encourage someone to do something good? Now, I'm not promoting an alarm to tell someone to stand up, but it's just something to ponder. Alarms in healthcare versus alarms in our real life. And Hopefully you've gotten this message, and you will get this message, but according to the CMS new regulations, we all need to be assessing and care planning and providing services for trauma-informed care. People are coming to us with all sorts of different traumas, and unfortunately these alarms might trigger some trauma that was in someone's life. If you think of a former police officer or a former firefighter, I've heard that former firefighters now living in nursing homes are struggling with all these alarms, and it makes sense.